welcome. This is Tampa Home Talk, and I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here. And we have some stats to go over. It's interesting. I was looking. I don't know quite when the 2022 stats are going to come out. You know how we pull the stuff from Florida Realtors?
Don't you say they take forever?
They do.
We'll probably get it in March.
Yeah.
No, it'll be like January.
Gotcha.
Late January, but we'll get it for the whole year. And that'll be really interesting to look at those two side by side. And then what I'll do is I'll pull not only 2021 to 2022, but we'll pull 2020 as well. And I think that'd be a really good kind of balance indicator of where we're at and where we're going. So let's jump into these market stats, shall we?
Okay.
Y'all ready? Yeah.
Fire away. I feel like I haven't done market stats in a while. I'm a little rusty.
Leo Kane is here, Adam Talley's in the house, and Danielle Evans is back too.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so number of new listings coming in the market in the last 7 days, 581.
Seems a little light, folks.
I think it is.
But I think it's still heavier than last year at this time. I think we were still in the 400s.
Fair enough.
We've been tracking that data.
And it is Christmas time, so I feel like it's always hit or miss with the holidays.
I think we're going to see an influx of new listings coming up this month, and we'll talk about that more with Danielle Evans in a minute as well, with what she's seeing and what I'm seeing.
Wait a second. Is that from foreclosures, or is that from lowering interest rates?
You got to wait. We got to finish the market stats.
It's called a tease,
so
Leo.
I just got teased.
Price increase. Not like that. Let's not make it weird, okay? Price increase 85. And the price, by the way, if you got teased, it was from Adam, not me. I'm just saying. I couldn't resist. Okay. Price decrease.
It is Castle Friday. So.
Okay, look at this one. Price decreases 1,005 in a 7-day trend. Price decreases.
Price improvements.
Price improvements. I like that one better. Yeah.
Price improvements.
That's the new trend, hot word on the realtor side.
I see a lot of postings on Facebook about all these price improvements and.
Oh, that's a real thing. I thought you were just making.
Oh no! I know people that use that.
No, I don't use social
media.
It's
real.
Oh my,
it's real.
Hilarious.
So
just price it right in the first place.
Back on the market, 266. Yeah, if you price it right, I'll tell you about a listing I had and how that went down this week. So sold listings coming in at 562. That is lower than our active. Some of those little indicators we look at. Danielle's smiling because she's trying to figure out when to check the stable box on the appraisal. Anyway, the number of canceled listings is up, 218. That's an interesting number as well. Those are like canceled or withdrawn. So they were going to sell and now they're not. And I think we're going to have more people hold on to their listings because of these super duper low interest rates.
He was first, but I have a follow-up question to that as well.
That makes sense. I mean, canceled listings, they're trying to get it done by the end of the year, so they're probably LLCs. They don't want to do a new year of taxes. They don't get it sold by the end of the year. They're like, well, I'm in the new tax year anyway. Might as well just keep renting it.
I love how he's thinking about it from the business side, like it's going to actually sell in 3 days.
I'm thinking about it completely different than that. So would it still show up as canceled if you switched real estate agents?
Yes. If you switch brokerage, yes.
So my thought would be.
Yes, it would.
My thought would be these prices.
Well, it depends.
These people that listed it way high, they're not getting it. You have an antsy buyer.
Yes, there's also withdrawn, which is 37. That means the agent said, I'm done. I'm out. Canceled means kind of a mutual agreement or the customer canceled. That's 218. It's like withdrawn. Because
I could totally see somebody that's still living in the past being like, oh, no, I want $500 for my house, and it's really $425. And they're just like, no.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting trend. It was because we were getting kind of over 500 moving into the 600. Thank you, Leo, for the kind of like that normal average run-of-the-mill house. And we're seeing a lot of great stuff pop back up in the 4s.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you something I've seen a lot, and this is kind of talking to the trends of where things are. If we're talking in 2021 or early 2022 even, and definitely late 2020, when we go to do a homeowner's policy, we're doing a replacement cost estimate, right? And that's kind of the rebuild cost of the homes.
Oh, this is a great,
right?
I love where you're going with this.
So during those times when the market was really hot, you might be buying a house for $600 and we're insuring it for $350. Now I'm seeing, especially the further north you go.
Wait, slow down on that. I think you said it backwards. So if they bought early, like in 2022, and you're insuring at $350, the market goes up, and now it's at $650.
No, they're buying it for $500 or $600, and we're insuring it for like $350. Mm-hmm. There's a big gap there.
There is.
So meaning they bought it earlier, and their prices rose.
No. We're talking two different things. Okay. We're talking replacement cost, which is your dwelling limit. That might be $350. As where you might have bought the house for $600. Now I'm seeing where you might be buying the house for $470, and the replacement cost is $425. So that's if you take split the difference, that's theoretically the cost of land.
So what he's talking about is one price is how much, if the home gets leveled by Hurricane Ian, what would it take to put a new house on the property?
Right.
The other one is how much you paid for it.
Right.
Yeah. So theoretically,
Those numbers are coming closer together.
Those numbers should be the same.
No,
because we don't
One doesn't
we don't
include
insure
land.
land.
Yeah.
We
That's
don't
right.
insure land.
They're never the same because the dirt is there no matter what.
So, and I've been seeing trending wise, the further north you are, right? So Pasco a little bit, definitely Hernando. You might even be insuring for more than you're paying again. As we're down in Tampa, it's still definitely a bit of a gap.
You know, there was a lot of bills that passed too, and it was one of the things I wanted to cover, but we have to have the right attorney in here to talk about that. It's a couple of the things on the outline we'll chat about, but insurance is still...
Oh, yeah. And that also speaks to building costs going up, too. So it's in conjunction with other things, but just keeping that in mind.
Leo, on that note, do you think building cost estimates and prices are going to drop a little?
I see no reason for them to drop.
I don't either.
I mean, City of Cape Coral actually contacted us yesterday. They don't have enough inspectors, and they want to hire our firm to take over their roof inspections citywide. I mean,
Absolutely.
Leo's slamming
And
and
I've been offered multiple jobs in Manatee and Sarasota County to go down there to help the appraisers for the influx of people that are moving from Fort Myers to Bradenton, Sarasota, Manatee County. So we're seeing an influx.
Girl, you should just schedule a weekend there and then have a weekend, Friday, Saturday,
Well, that's
Sunday.
what I already do. I've always covered Sarasota. I've always covered 11 counties, and I just pick and choose what clients I go, and I stay geographically competent by traveling, and I'll go down there and take a ton of work until I'm sick of the drive.
Stay at the beach for a couple
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
You get to write it off.
But I've always done it my whole career, and now it's just we're being pushed back down there because we have the experience down there, and they are hurting for appraisers and inspectors from all the way from Fort Myers, Naples, Carroll.
When do you think
Cape
that'll
Coral.
kind of settle down?
It's
going to
be 2 years.
2 years?
2+ years.
2+ years.
You have to think. You have the people who have the money doing it now that are waiting for supplies, and then you have the people who are in their insurance claims, and the insurance claims can take 1 to 2 years because you still have the arguments of your
The
roof
insurance guy laughed.
Yep.
your roof was torn off by floodwaters is the defense now from the insurance
yeah.
company.
What? I guess it's possible.
And that's why there's so many people that are temporarily moving to Sarasota because their rebuild down in Fort Myers is taking way too long, and they're buying smart. They can use the properties later in Sarasota as rentals and investments.
I have
If
one.
you have enough money to do
Well,
not everybody's
these people
as
are
fortunate,
from Naples. They have
Well,
it.
I have one right now. The guy, my client, owns a gutter company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're just as busy as everyone else. Most of their work is down south right
Yeah.
now, which they've had a Naples branch for a while now, and so they basically are. They're busy, and so
Any
said,
real
Leo,
estate agent that's really starving, I'm not sure why they're not heading south. And I'm seeing the influx of people from Orlando are moving to Tampa, and people from Fort Myers are moving to Sarasota. And we're just watching because we see both sides. We see the sales contracts that have the addresses on both sides. We see where the people are coming and going.
If it were me, I would just buy another home and plan to make that my second home in the
That's
future.
what they are planning to do, especially the ones that are going down to Sarasota. And I mean, look at Anna Marie Island. They're still rebuilding there.
Yeah.
So
And you have to think, I mean, if you can afford to do that, I mean, the other stats that we were following since we're a Money Talk channel, I mean, the average person has less than $5,000 in their savings account. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
These people can't afford that first month, last month, and security deposit all at once.
And they're also still paying their mortgage payment.
And also, the rental rates are not going down, and it's keeping our values of our homes up.
Well, I mean, rental rates can't go down. I have a couple of
can't.
rentals in
They
between my
won't.
HOA dues going up and my property taxes going up
Insurance.
and the insurance going
They're
up.
barely
But
breaking
those went up like
even.
$10 each, though. Give me a break
Okay,
on that.
no,
No,
that is
they're
not
not.
the case
I'm
for most
seeing.
people.
I'm doing a lot of work
condos.
for investors.
Condos are going up because of Senate Bill 4D. They're going up
Yeah.
20 to 30%.
One at a time, children. We cannot
Yeah.
talk over each other.
I have investors that'll send me out to do 8 or 9 of their investment properties, and every one of them raised the rent $300 this
Have to.
year.
This is Tampa Home Talk, and that sound means we have to take a quick break. I'm going to give you our off-air number, and then when we come back, we're going to give you some U-Haul data on where people are coming to, from, and what that looks
U-Haul.
like. Yeah, because U-Haul does a great job tracking that stuff.
It does.
Our off-air number, you can call or text if you want to get some information. And we'll tell you why also some of these new listings are, we'll talk more into that data when we get back as well with Danielle. 813-377-2775. We got some good stuff coming up. Stick around as it relates to the housing market here in Tampa Bay. 813-377-2775. That's our off-air number. We'll be right back.
Welcome home. This is Leo Kane with Beryl Engineering and Inspection. Welcome you back to Tampa Home Talk, where we are going to do a deep dive from several different angles into the housing market all across the United States.
Well, let's chat about those numbers real quick, because Danielle and I were talking off air about some of this data and these numbers and this sort of stuff. And I've said this for a while. I think it just lasted a little longer during COVID, but we're going to see more and more divorces, I think, go up.
Absolutely. For our company, we've covered litigation my entire career, but in 2019, there was not even a fraction of the divorces that we have today. And 2020, a lot of filings, but really no movement because the courts were closed. And here we are, 2023, and our court dockets are full of divorce cases. And the cases aren't the same as what they were in the past. There is no way to save the property. One person can't buy out the other, either because there's not enough equity or there's not a way to refinance.
I have a hard time believing the equity. I think it's the rate. That's
a lot of these homes, you have to understand, they were refinanced in 2020 and refinanced again in 2021.
Okay.
And then come 2022, they're trying to, deviate who gets what, and at the end of the day, there's nothing really to split, and the houses are being forced to be sold.
Yeah, I think that's going to progress as we go. I'm seeing the number of new listings already go up just in the stuff that I'm looking at.
And I'm seeing an influx of agents contacting us to have homes appraised that just came off the market. They were canceled or withdrawn. And we have agents coming to us because we offer a discount program. And we're going out there to appraise them to help to let the seller know your price is unrealistic.
You know what my concern is, Danielle, is, again, you guys still look at past data, right?
Absolutely.
In order to, determine the value. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, there's ink all over this marker, Leo. That's why I'm rubbing it off.
But it's yellow. It's a yellow marker.
If you're watching on Facebook, I know at the end of it's black. Anyway, so are you guys yet marking that stable box?
No.
Or we're not quite there yet.
We're not there. Tampa Bay was just named number 1 for the most increasing region. I mean, we're on every list. Miami and Tampa. We're on all the good lists that we've never been on before. And so I don't see in pocket neighborhoods we are seeing a stabilization, but it's more in the manufactured home.
And again, that information that you guys report is delayed because you're looking at past sales.
And the only thing we're seeing stable is in the 55 and up communities, mobile home parks, and the places where a lot of cash is the driving force.
So what we're seeing, and right now when we price it, again, every home has a range. I've talked about this for years. When we go in and do a price, it's not this is your number, this is your range. And right now, sellers need to price. They need to pick the low end or the bottom number of that range.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're messing around. You're going to be on the market for a while. The showings are uncomfortable.
Yep.
The price reductions are not going to be fun. And then your listing's going to get stale.
Yeah.
So I had this listing. I sold the home to the lady 17 years ago. I did her mortgage. She's selling her home. She's retiring. She's moving to Georgia, which is where she was originally from. And we got 5 offers on her home.
Because you priced it right.
We did, including 2 that were cash.
We're seeing people that are just priced too high, and they're sitting on the market for 100, 120 days before they're even doing anything and even concerned. And those properties could have sold within less than a month had they been priced right. Because our days on market are still very, very low.
Do you ever see people that, other than the divorces, that get an appraisal before they list? So it's
Yes.
accurate?
Absolutely. We have buyers that
Depending
come
on
to
how much
us.
time elapsed.
We have buyers and sellers. Sellers will come to us, have it appraised, and then go find the agent. And when the agent comes, they don't even tell the agent they had the appraisal done. It's just there in their back pocket for
They
their
wanna
own
see what
peace
they
of
say.
mind. They
Yeah.
want to see that's how they interview the agents.
Oh, I love when I get those.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm like, let me see the appraisal. We're going to talk about it together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we do pre-listings, we beef these things up with pending and active listings,
Good.
and we contact the agents for those pending listings, and we know they're going to close, or we're not using them.
Good. That's a good
And
way
we
to
give a
usually get it.
we give a market value for the property, and then a range for the list price,
Makes sense.
suggested list price.
So Texas and Florida, no surprise, are ranked as the top 2 states still attracting Americans as
Yep.
of last year. And this was according to U-Haul's growth index. They measure, how many people are moving to and from on those one-way trips. And they said more than 2 million Americans did a one-way trip last year. And Florida is second, right behind Texas. So where are people moving from? Tampa is huge on the list. Across the nation, 2% of home buyers search to move to Tampa from outside the immediate Tampa area. New York home buyers, of course, normal migration pattern, are moving here to Tampa. Also followed by Washington and Chicago.
Washington and Chicago are kind of a little bit surprising because they usually go to Arizona.
Washington,
Michigan's another one that's on the
Washington's
list.
surprising. Ohio, Michigan's not.
Not.
It's like it seems a lot of people from New York
Yeah.
go to Miami, and a lot of people
Right.
from Ohio, Chicago, Michigan come here.
You either go
Yeah.
down I-95 or you go down
go
I-75.
Yeah, pretty much.
So let me tell you what I've seen. There was a past client I had. He was actually worked for the FBI, and he worked here locally. We sold his home. He moved to Washington, which had to do with like some type of change in role and money, which affected his retirement. But the plan was always to come back, so that would have counted as a move, right, from Washington to Tampa.
Which Washington are we
State
talking
or
about?
DC?
Yeah.
DC.
Which one are you talking about?
It doesn't. In my opinion, it doesn't matter. But I feel like a lot of people used to migrate to Arizona that aren't anymore. Arizona's
the West
gotten
Coast.
so expensive that now we're getting the West Coast snowbirds. It just we had that in the housing crisis. A lot of our snowbirds left Florida and went to Arizona. They're all back.
Well, Arizona still gets cold. That's what people don't realize. When you're in that desert climate, you might have your 80-degree days, and you might have your 40, 30-degree nights.
Which is
Yeah.
crazy.
So, I mean, that's just normal. I mean, I grew up in Texas. I grew up with that kind of temperature swing.
Is
So,
it
I mean,
because there's no trees to keep in the
no
the
humidity.
heat?
Right.
Desert.
No humidity.
a desert.
And so, if you're looking at that from that standpoint, if you're snowbirding to escape the cold, you're coming to Florida.
Yeah.
So speaking of all this growth that we're having in the Bay Area, and I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you do, Leo, but I was hoping to get a little more, maybe even Schreiner knows. But Floridians are going to start being able to ride the passenger rail system, the Bright Line. Remember that high-speed rail?
I can't wait.
It was supposed to go from Tampa to Orlando and then to South Florida. It was voted in by Tampa, and then for whatever reason, Tampa got annexed out.
I think they're still talking about making that connection soon.
Yeah, but we're
It's
behind.
privatizing it.
Yeah.
They're making it fully private.
So we're behind. I mean, right
That
now,
makes sense.
it's actively constructing the line, and it's supposed to stop in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and Orlando. So when the rail is complete, which is supposed to be this year, the trip from Orlando to West Palm Beach should take about 2 hours, with the train getting a top speed of around 125 miles per hour.
And then there's a train that goes from like Winter Garden or Winter Haven or whichever winter's on the east side. There's
Garden.
one that goes
Through the
there
Altamont Springs.
all the way to Tampa. So you can technically, if the two trains are near each other, you could train
Yeah.
the train.
Yeah.
Train the train. I love it.
Up online,
Tampa and Orlando that's a game changer.
What was that, Kurt?
I just looked it up online. There's a 320-mile Florida passenger rail route planned from Miami to Tampa, but it will not be completed all the way to Tampa till at least 2028.
Is that the same rail line that is connecting through Orlando? Okay. Okay.
Which century are we talking about where railroads are going to redefine the state of Florida?
Well, think about it. How else are we going to get public transportation? Subway's not really an option.
I'm from Massachusetts. I'm from
Submarine
Cape
would be
Cod,
an
where it's completely normal to put your car on a ferry and get from one place to another. And I mean,
I think that's
these
fascinating.
trains, if they could move a car, it's a game changer.
I don't. With the rise of the Lyft Ubers and stuff like that, and the Zoomies and the Turos and all that other stuff.
To get to Orlando in a half hour,
They don't need
from
to take their
Tampa to
train.
Orlando in a half hour, whether you have your car with you or not, it's a game changer.
Yeah, I don't think they should.
It'll change, and it'll change our tourism as well, because people that come here to go to Disney will then be coming here to go to Busch Gardens.
Yeah, definitely.
Wouldn't be two separate trips.
And they'll realize we have more to offer than Disney.
So Brightline says it's going to create $6.4 billion for the economy with this high-speed railway, and according to them, more than 2,000 jobs after this line is actually constructed. So 10,000 jobs through the rail line construction, and more than $653 million in federal, state, and local tax revenue.
I wonder how much they got in grants.
Yeah.
Well, imagine being able to get to Disney in 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and you don't have to drive or park or anything else. You just
it's
get dropped
the
off
game
at downtown
changer.
Disney, and away you go.
That would be nice. You can take the train, but it's a little different.
Well, it doesn't
than
stop
this.
at Disney. It only
Right.
stops in Orlando proper,
And
so then you
once
still got
this
to
thing
figure
is-
out the next 30 miles.
And then once this thing is done, I wouldn't put it past Disney to hook a monorail right up to it, so you get off at the
Oh,
train
yeah.
station, get on a monorail, and go to Disney.
Now you're cooking. Those are great ideas. I
I want to
love
see a bullet
that.
train.
Leo,
Yes.
do you know why?
Maglev.
Well, how did Tampa get annexed out of that? Do you know the answer to that?
It's probably got to do with money and routing.
It was
It
politics.
was voted in,
Politics.
though, by the people.
It was a lot of
I
politics.
mean, if you think back in the 2000 election, we voted in a monorail
It
system
was,
for the
yeah.
whole state, and then they shelved it, and then they put it back up for vote like we never voted on before, and we voted in favor of it. So, I mean,
People clearly want it.
yes, people
Who doesn't want a monorail?
right.
That's Florida.
Well, yes, right. This is Tampa Home Talk, and when we get back, we're going to do a little bit more insurance talk.
Oh, joy.
Adam's got some stuff lined up for us that we're going to chat about, and our author
It's news
number
to me.
is 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. This is Tampa Home Talk. We'll be right back. Stick around.
This is Adam Talley with Talley Insurance, and you're listening to Tampa Home Talk. Our off-air number, if you'd like to reach us, is 813-377-2775. That's 813-377-2775. And insurance. Yeah.
What do you want to talk about insurance? Do you
gonna
want to
get-
skip it and wait till next week?
No, it'll be fine. It's getting real interesting out there, and I feel like people are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I'll tell you it's going to affect the real estate market, because at a certain point, the insurance is going to kick people out on their DTI and all those other ratios that the mortgage lenders look at.
Are always pushing you to try to meet.
Right, because they won't be able to afford the insurance. And I
think we're going to see higher deductibles. I don't know what other
higher
option there
deductibles.
is.
I think now I do have a carrier that's most of them are implementing just lots of restrictions, right? Limited water. Water's probably just going to be capped at $10,000 in the future, probably regardless of the age of the home, unfortunately. I think even though it never got passed into being state mandated, I think you're going to see a lot of carriers that are going to go, I already have one that's doing it now. It does open up more opportunities, but where they're going to go to that actual cash value roof schedule, which we talked about before, where that means they're only going to give you the depreciated value for your roof.
And I've always agreed with that. If I have a 25-year shingle roof, and I'm 18 years in, and my roof
Get
fails
storm
to
damage,
you should get
7 years left?
7 years life left of the
Yep.
roof. I've always
Totally
felt
agree.
that way.
Well, and that would be a great way to stabilize things.
I don't understand why it's not already done like that. It's common sense.
I thought it was done like that because when I'm going out there and I'm doing my litigation inspections, I'm like, yes, this roof is wind damaged, and yes, this roof is wind damaged,
'Cause
and
it's
it was
old.
more susceptible to wind damage because it was 15 years old. That doesn't mean it wasn't wind damaged because it was 15 years old. It just means it was more susceptible.
Right.
So give this person their 10 years of useful life left and be done.
Right.
And that's the way I thought it was when I first got involved in the expert witness side of things.
And then what price are they using? The current price of what they paid for it? Or, the current price of what a new roof is, or the old price of what they paid for it?
Price of a new roof.
Price of a new roof.
You got to pay that contractor
And you
what
have
it costs.
law and ordinance, so you have to upgrade it to meet
Oh,
current
got
building
it. That's
code.
right.
So
Yeah.
there's these other things going on as well. But I still don't think, I really still believe that if you're got a 30-year roof and you're 15 years in, you only get 15 years of useful life payment back.
Well, I will say what that has helped with that particular carrier I'm talking about is these houses that were built in 2006, 2007, where if you still have that original roof, you're really looking Citizens or bust. It gives them options to not be with Citizens, right? And it gives, like, if we're looking at the insurance market as a whole, the less people with Citizens, the better. That is better for everybody,
Well, they're
because Citizens
now requiring flood, so
that's going to be the other thing, and we haven't gotten anything on when that's going to start being mandatory. But if Citizens is 20% or 25% less than the next best option, but then you have to add $1,000 flood policy,
They're still less.
maybe.
I'd opt to take the one with the flood, even though it's Citizens. I'm just saying. Okay.
Well, you get more. But if you're sitting on a hill in Pasco County in Dade City
So-
where you're never going to flood,
So let me ask you this: is that a pendulum swing move? Because we had Ian and Nicole that flooded parts of the state with 3 feet of rain that never see that, or is that just a move to force people to other markets and to allow other markets to come in here and raise their prices without having to worry about Citizens undercutting them?
Citizens doesn't want to be undercut. The problem is they can only increase their premium. They can only increase their rates so much every year, as where anybody else could do a 80% rate increase and just show a bunch of losses and say we have to do this, and the state kind of has to let them do it or they'll go out of business, right? So Citizens is limited, and this is a way to kind of step outside of those limitations by making it more expensive. Now, the other thing it does do, which is, FEMA's and they've made all these different changes to the flood rating and all this other, the Bigger It's Waters Act and all these other things where trying to stabilize the flood insurance market, because you got to understand, a lot of floods happen in X zones, right, which would be a non-mandatory zone. So if you're paying $600 in an X zone and you have $200,000 loss, it's a lot to eat up versus these coastal places where they're actually prepared for it. They're paying $5,000 and they might not see anything.
That Bigger at Waters is a joke. I remember
Oh,
when
yeah.
that thing happened, and literally we were getting flood quotes that were higher than the mortgage payment monthly. It was ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. And that's common. Like, I mean, everything that happened 10-10 of last year kind of flipped it all upside down. I mean, I have some coastal homes, and I got a WinMint, Jesus. I have an elevation certificate that shows that it's, maybe a foot above the floodplain. Still getting $3,000-$4,000 a year for flood insurance.
Wow.
Because part of what they did, and here's the other key, part of what they did is they now part of the rating, the factor in the rate is the replacement cost of the house, right? So before, the max is $250 with FEMA, right? So $250 is $250. Didn't matter if your house was $250 or $1,050,000, right? $250 was the max. And there was no separation in the rates between the $1 million house and the $250,000 house. Now there's a big separation.
And there kind of should be, just saying.
I don't disagree, but anyways, that all comes back to stabilizing the flood market, which if you're forcing a lot of people into the FEMA market, that's more for them on homes that they might not have to pay out on. So it's a two-factor thing there that may help in that range. But if the goal of all these was to reduce people's insurance rates or stabilize them, I don't know if that's what this is going to,
I don't think the goal to reduce people's insurance rates is to tack on more insurance.
It's not, typically. That's a poor
Depends on
decision. But
Can I talk about good news, though?
let's talk about some good news.
So you might have to spend $3,000 or $4,000 more on your insurance next year for flood, but you could save 50% on your tolls.
It was one of the laws that passed. I think it's great. So
Yeah, I like the
what's the new rules on that? 'Cause
I
I'm excited
like
about that.
the reasoning behind it. So the reasoning behind it is the tolls, and there's so many in the Orlando area, are really meant as a tourist tax. And they never wanted to really penalize the people that are commuting to and from work that have to use tolls to put a burden on them, which puts a burden on employers. So what they've gone ahead and done is if you do your SunPass, Easy Toll, whatever, if you use it more than 35 times in a month, you get a 50% rebate back on the toll swiping.
That is
On all the
insane.
tolls,
You just
right?
made my day. Like, do you realize how many tolls I run?
Yeah, if you
I mean,
I
I
actually
went
go
through
I don't
16
run.
yesterday.
I don't run any tolls.
16
This law's
in
for
one
you.
day.
This law's for you, Daniel.
Yeah,
That law is for
But
me.
it's specifically aimed at people who are working, going to and from work, to and from where they need to be for work, so they're not being penalized with all these tolls. I love this. This is a great move.
Is there something you have to fill out or? apply for?
I think it's just tracked through SunPass. It's a rebate program, so I do want to learn more about it on how it actually is implemented, but it's a rebate program. But yeah, like you're saying.
Definitely worth Googling.
Yeah.
So here's a really good one that's worth talking about. That was among those law changes was Maya's law, and you guys may remember a couple years ago there was a young lady named Maya in Orlando that actually she was by the maintenance guy. So they're now requiring landlords of these properties to undergo background checks and screenings as a condition of employment. They also are revising reasonable notice. So the law never really defined what reasonable notice was before, but now they're saying 24. It didn't actually say in the
I thought it was
statute.
always 24 hours.
It wasn't. The good landlords kind of gave that, but now in this new Maya's law, it's actually defined. And on top of that, they also have to keep a log of who has a master key to that unit and when they're accessing the unit. So that should make folks renting and in apartments feel good about that, because a lot of them get very up in arms.
Well, I mean, there's always still the maintenance emergency. So a pipe breaks on the third floor, and it's flooding the third floor. They're going into floors 2 and 1.
That's different.
You're not getting a 24-hour notice there. But I thought
that's emergency.
If it's an emergency that can destroy the property or harm others, that law and that rule doesn't apply.
But everything else I've always seen noticed, like if they're doing the annual fire check, if they're doing the annual sprinkler head check, another fire check. If they're doing the annual security check, which is another fire check. I guess it's also everything I'm seeing them going into units for is fire checks.
Well, a lot of them check, monthly to make sure like the AC filters are changed,
that's
to
true.
make sure there's not pets in there that aren't supposed
The
to
good
be in
ones do.
there.
The good ones, yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's good that they have to now background check and pre-screen and also keep a log of who is going to be coming in and out of
Okay,
those
so
homes.
question for you. They're going to background check, but does that mean they can't hire? You're going to tell them who they can and can't hire? Or
That's
do you just
different-
have to do the background check, period? So I can do a
here's-
background check, felony, but I hire felons, so come on down.
Here's the kicker on that. I know this from just having recently won and implemented a state contract.
Mm-hmm.
They required a level 1 background check, which is something you just fill out online. They required a level 2 background check, which is fingerprinting. But then when you get the results, they then have a matrix they compare it to, and things we thought they would fail people on, they didn't. So not only it goes to what Adam's saying, you have to get this background check, which I'm guessing is just a level 1 background check, which is just
it
running your
should
social
be.
security number through a database. But what is the matrix that says if they meet these criteria, you can't hire them? And that's where I see a bunch of these laws fail. I've seen a law fail. The biggest one I saw fail was the homeless peddling law in Ybor City. That they passed a law saying that you couldn't be basically asking people panhandling. But it had no enforceability. And I think this might be another one of those where, everyone needs a background check. They get a background check. It says they're a multi-turd felon. And there's nothing saying that here's the criteria you can't hire these people on.
Well, the flip side to
That's
that,
like Pasco finding the person giving to the panhandler.
but the flip side to that whole
Well, they're
thing,
the ones with the money.
Yeah.
They're the ones that get the fine.
They're
But-
the ones that have money.
That's why they want to find them, I guess. Anyway, back to what you're saying.
Screw your
Leo.
generosity.
Listen, you guys have me so off track this morning.
Pull it together, Kat. Let's do this.
I love you.
We got
You're supposed to wrangle it.
15 minutes.
The
Come on
challenge
now.
is, if you remember, and I can't remember who it was, but we had an attorney in the studio where we talked about how they could actually be sued for discrimination.
Right.
If they, basically the laws are meant to be like, hey, if you were a felon and you did your time and now you're out, you did your time and you shouldn't be penalized.
So I can see that. So if you have the background check and you don't have a matrix handed to you for failure criteria, already knowing there's racial disparity on who's in the prison system, this is a discrimination law in effect unless they give you a criteria that says this is where you can clearly say, well, I can't hire you because of X, Y, and Z. If not, it's just opening up for discrimination. So employers are basically going to run the background check and say, it's
Great.
on file. We knew you were a mass murderer, but it's on file.
Yeah, they
We
should
do,
have,
but we
but
believe in
that's-
second chances.
I mean, that's the thing. They should have like that set criteria, like Leo said, where a tenant can inquire about that. What's your background check policy? And at what stage do you still allow a hire versus not?
But now you're saying that the tenant can get personal information on the person coming into their unit?
No, but they should be able to ask before they rent a place, you said they should have a criteria and a matrix. I agree. And the tenant should have the right to ask, what is that criteria and that matrix before you hire someone?
Oh, yeah, just the general stuff.
Maybe we need a different tier other than felony and misdemeanor.
813-377-2775.
I've said that for a while, and I could tell you some stories about that.
813-377-2775.
When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the FBI complaints. We're seeing these are real. We're going to chat about them in a minute. Stick around. You could be subject to a victim on these. Don't tune away. We'll be right back.
Welcome home. This is Leo Kane with Beryl Engineering and Inspection, briefly talking about your inspection tip of the week, which is supposed to relate to what we're talking about.
What do you have in mind?
I think we'll just talk about it's always good to know your documents in advance. Let's talk about reserve studies for a second. So if you're going to live in an apartment condominium setting and you happen to be an owner of said apartment condominium, you have to be up on your reserve studies. These are documents that if you're buying a condominium unit, you should be requesting in advance. This is the item that's going to make your dues go up 20 to 30% this year. You want to make sure that your HOA has a reserve study on file. You want to see how old that reserve study is, and you want to make sure that it has all the items and criteria it should have. So if you're buying a condominium, what I could recommend, it is more important now more than ever to lean upon professionals like your real estate agent, like an attorney, to make sure that the documents you're getting from the HOA are the most current and most law-compliant documents.
Tell the person listening what the reserve study is and why it's important.
The reserve study is basically a capital improvement plan. The reserve study is a great tool. If I was going to replace my roof because it's old on my house, it would be wise if I was putting $100 in the bank every month towards that roof. So when it came time 15 years from now when I needed to replace my roof, I've got a stack of money set aside for it. Condominiums one up that. They say you must do this by state law, I'm not a lawyer, and that you have to have a budget for it, and you have to know when that replacement's coming. And they force you to develop a budget, collect money over time to be able to do these replacements. A lot of HOAs don't have them on file. A lot of HOAs are now being forced to have them, so dues are going up, 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 up. So if you're buying a condominium, you want to see a copy of the reserve study. Otherwise, you might be buying something where you think condo dues are $200 a month, and then you're going to turn around next year and it's going to be $600 a month.
And you should always be a part of the HOA. If you live in a condo, you should be a part of it, or you shouldn't buy a condo.
And if you're buying, don't be fooled by the
You need
look.
to show up to the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean participate?
Participate and be the vote.
Not be in.
I mean,
I thought that was.
If I was living in any kind of HOA, I would be on the board.
Well, remember we're talking. There's a liability too on the board, which is another whole thing. But one tip on the real estate side: if you're buying a property, don't be fooled by the way it looks to assume that you know what class it's in. You need to look at the legal description to see if it's classified as a condo, townhome, or villa, which can be significantly different for a lot of reasons.
Yes,
a condo is a form of ownership. A townhouse is a single-family home that's attached to another.
Right, but
you own the land.
When you say that, people think, historically speaking, that condos are a little box and a high rise.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's single-family homes that are condos.
But people think that.
Yeah.
Like historically speaking, they think, in a standalone
And the
place, a
co-ops.
single family, and they think that a townhome is a two-story attached, and that's not true.
That's
it's
not
simply
true at
how
all.
it's zoned.
Well, let's complicate it even more. You get townhouses where the HOA will do the maintenance and will replace the roof and stuff, but they don't actually have any property coverage, which means that you would still need to get an HO3 because if lightning only strikes your house, they're not replacing the roof on your house.
And let's further complicate this.
Yes,
Make sure if you're buying into a condominium, townhome, apartment, co-op, whatever, a CDD, villa.
Ask a lot of questions.
Ask a lot of questions and make sure that you get your attorney or an attorney involved to make sure you're getting the right documents.
Very much so. Now, real quick, to talk about this, because we haven't covered this in a while, but the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center showed that real estate scams are a persistent problem here in the Tampa Bay region, and we can attest to this because we see
Absolutely.
it on our
Appraisers
own
are
properties.
being attacked right now. Appraisers' phones, because our phone numbers are public and we advertise every appraiser that is in our Facebook groups, they're being targeted, and it looks like an order coming over, like somebody's trying to engage you and get an order, and next thing you know, they've hacked your entire world and turned your entire Facebook to Korean.
So, oh gosh.
And then you can't get it back. We've seen it roll through the appraisers across the country.
So what I'm talking about specifically, and we're going to give you some tips on how to avoid this. So a lot of times what these scammers do is they look for vacant properties. They can see based on the photos that these properties are empty. So that's a very high target for what I'm going to tell you about next, and I'll tell you how to avoid it. But last year, 304 victims reported losing $6.2 million in the 6 counties in Florida right around us. So Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, Polk, Sarasota, and Manatee. Hillsborough County accounted for nearly half of those reports in the Tampa Bay region, and 132 people reporting 3.5 million losses in 2021. So
4.5 million people got affected.
no,
That'd be the whole.
132.
So is this them just
Okay, 4.5
wiring
million.
the money?
So I'll tell
and
you what this is.
title not catching it?
Well, I'll tell you what it is. No, it's not the same thing. Pasco County losses doubled as well. They jumped to over 2 million in the prior 12 months. So there's a special agent with the FBI that deals with these. And so what we see, the most common one is those low dollar rental scams.
Yeah.
So they'll see a property available.
Marketplace.
See a property available for rent. And the challenge with this too is unless the loss exceeds 6 or 7 figures, it doesn't even go to the Attorney General's office. So it's barely looked at by the FBI. But you have these properties that are vacant, say they're listed for sale. They will go in, they will scour these, and they will list it for rent. Used to be on Craigslist, but they're getting creative in where they list it.
Yeah,
and
their marketplace really
And they'll
heavy.
say, oh, I'm out of town working, I'm this and that. But for whatever reason, they can never meet you. There's not a realtor involved. And they'll say, oh, just send me the money, and I'm basically going to mail you the keys, or I will leave the keys, or I'll have my friend meet you with the keys. It's always something like that. So a couple of tips to protect yourself if you're out there and you're a renter and you want to make sure you don't get taken advantage of by sending money to these unscrupulous people. Make sure there is a professional realtor involved, because you can verify their license with DBPR, which is the Department of Professional Regulation. Also, fact check the listing. This is a big one, and this is why if there's a realtor involved, you're going to have some more protection, because we do look for that sort of thing. We want to make sure that the owner that we're dealing with directly is the person that is on the property appraiser's website, and it's not someone else. You also want to avoid cash or money payment applications like PayPal or Zelle, especially when there's no realtor involved. When we're involved, we have a due diligence to make sure people are getting connected to the right place. Whenever possible, try to use credit cards to avoid some of these scams. And you can also do reverse search images on Google to identify fake rental listings that these people have put up. And to report it, flag these posts on social media, real estate market apps, and other places. Facebook is a big place where they are. Make a complaint with Hillsborough County Consumer Services and the FBI Internet Crimes Complaint Center. I wish I could try to catch these guys. For the first time on my side, I've actually seen this come over on the seller side, where we get a request, someone wants to list the property, and they're not the owner.
They're not the owner. That's what we're getting as appraisers.
That's what Kevin Overstreet was very good at.
We're getting these random, and because we look at the public records,
Yep.
we see it, and the names don't match up.
Yeah.
And we know it's a
Your good
scam.
professional will do that due diligence. This is Tampa Home Talk. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. Love where you live, or we'll fix it. Welcome home. We'll see you next week.